there's going to be a whole lot of murdering of pronunciation of the Gaelic tongue here by myself mostly. I'll apologise once now. I'm really sorry for all of this, but it'll be my best guesstimation. Even the lyrics and the phonetic pronunciation, when you spell it out, is still going to be an absolute car crash. So, peace out, Ireland. Uh,
Hey, everybody out there, welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name is Andy. That fellow over there is John. We're going to do what we always do, which is share music with one another, go off, give it a listen, and then come back and discuss it in depth. John, I hope you're doing well today. What have you have in store?
yeah. So the band is Clannad.
Okay.
The correct sponsors, bless you. Um,
My actual response was, what the hell does that mean? But I'm sure
yeah.
we'll get to that at some point in the episode.
Okay, and so the song is the theme from Harry's Game.
Theme from Harry's Game. All right. Well, even that, which is far more cut and dried, still collectively doesn't make any sense to me as a phrase. Um, Let me go off and give this thing that is already stirring question marks abound a listen, and then I will come back and let you know what I've made of it. I'm gonna pull this back. It's an incredibly short song. This is not English, which is probably no surprise to any of you who are familiar with the song, but I am not. So, of course, that would be my reaction. Um, I don't know. I mean, the name Clannad and then these visages of like, these kind of like stony, rough beaches kind of is taking me, over towards John's neck of the woods, where we're either in the north of the UK or somewhere over in Ireland. So I'm guessing this is Gaelic or something like that. Yeah, really beautiful ethereal voice, and then man, when those accompanying harmonizing vocals join, it is that much more lifting and beautiful. But musically, it's really scant, and it doesn't need to be doing a lot of things. It just needs to create a very simple canvas over top of which these angelic voices can kind of do their thing. And that's what's taken place, at least thus far. I mean, we damn near got halfway through the track there, but yeah, this is very atmospheric. This track, so it does. I don't think we need a lot of bells and whistles with this one. Just simple beauty. Yeah, here we go. if this is real like flute I'm hearing, or if this is part of the like if it's synth, like a synth replicant of it. Could just be a facsimile, but it sounds lovely, and all of this sounds airy. So of course here comes this woodwind like instrument, even if it's not the traditional thing. That's what they're going for, and it just adds this like added shot of air or lift to a track that's already pretty rich in that, but it certainly doesn't harm. It sounds great. Well then, I don't know if I've if I've ever been more eager to learn about what the narrative of a song was, as I am right now. You know, there's something that needs to be said about a song that's in a completely different language that has this, that can still have this much emotional gravity to it, or to a listener whose native tongue is not on display in the track. I I couldn't tell you my first inkling as to what this song might be about, but I can tell you that I'm absolutely intrigued. Any song that kind of like conjures this much heartfelt, um, of a performance by our lead singer here and her accompanying vocalist, um, there's something really intriguing about that. I I would love to know what she poured this amount of emotion into, what subject matter it was that she's discussing here that warranted this, or that could evoke these kind of feelings once you've listened to it. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't the foggiest, and yet I'm kind of really dying to know. So I'm hoping that part of what John's, and I'm sure it is, but part of like the back work he did for this episode was to get a translation of this, or at least an in-depth look into what it is about. Um, some really interesting visages as well, outside of just the shots of the coastlines and her semi melodramatic stare into the camera lens. There were some other scenes there. It looked like maybe even, I don't know what it was, but it kind of had like the vibe of like folks leaving a funeral or something, or perhaps getting out of their vehicles to attend one or something like that. I'm not really sure, but there was a somber nature to that scene. There's obviously a kind of a beautiful somberness to this track as a whole, which again, it I don't think it requires a lot of instrumentation or intricate arranging or anything like that. It really is just this beautifully simple atmospheric piece that I think is kind of moored to its emotional heft or gravity. And that's what I find really intriguing. I will say that, like, from a music standpoint, her voice sounded fabulous. You know, it had this really airy, otherworldly kind of sound to it that right out of the gate, after just a little bit of that resonant synth key instrument, she kind of carries the song from there, pulls you in, and you can really hear from jump that whatever she's singing about, it means a lot to her. So, I'd love to get to the bottom of that and then some. So let's get back to the man himself and see what he has to say about it.
Beat on the Brat, he's back. So you've had to listen to the theme from Harry's Game by Clannad. Um, do tell all.
Yeah, well, this is a surprisingly brief number for a track that you would offer up, John. Man, as you can probably imagine, I've come back with possibly more question marks than the ones that I had when I went off to listen to this, based off the very little bit you gave me. The more I watched, the more I listened, the more they accumulated. So you're gonna have to do some clearing, a lot of clearing up some things for me by the time I'm done my spiel here. But the song opens up, and it's this faint and low resonant synth key based synth sound. That is soon accompanied by this almost otherworldly and haunting female voice, a talented voice she does have. It sounds like she is singing in a tongue that is foreign to me, and I'm inclined to think Gaelic or something like that. What's educating that guess is that that name, Clannad, also connotes or sounds like it could be of the Gaelic language. I don't know many words, but it that sounds like it is of that. The other thing that really gave it away, or I don't even, I could be totally wrong, so gave it away might be the wrong word, but or phrase, but the visages, these like rocky shorelines, scream the shorelines in the north of your neck of the woods, and your neighbor over there to the west in Ireland as well. So I was thinking, oh, perhaps this is what we're dealing with. So thank God the video gave me some inclination as to where we were here. Um, and as if the initial appearance of her voice wasn't enough to gast your flabbers, at the 20-second mark, it is joined by what sounds like a chorus of angels. I mean, the marriage of these voices only further adds to the sense of like ethereal splendor. Um, I think it's around the 108 mark that those voices train on this lower note at that moment, just as the same synth note is playing, which creates this rich fullness of the harmony. Now, there's other examples of this happening throughout the song, but for whatever reason, it's when they went low there with their voices and with the note of the synth that it kind of like had this extra like weightiness to it. It just hit a little bit harder for me, and made it sound like the rest of it beautiful. And from here, the song continues to rely on this simple beauty that is the coupling of these voices laid over top of some stretched out chords on these synth keys. So there's not a lot happening here. But what is happening is gorgeous. I wish I could provide some further insight into the track, but one, there's only so much to dissect from a musical standpoint, and two, it simply doesn't require it. I mean, the song is perfect existing as it is without need for further musical supplementation. So the fact that it is just these voices, or in some cases just her voice, and this resonance kind of creates the mood. I mean, this is just an atmospheric piece. You know what I mean? This isn't an exhibition in, crazy talent or skill on any one instrument, save for her ability to get air in her voice and project it. That is the number one thing on display. So, frankly, any additions to other musical instruments will be, I think, a deterrence or detractor from what they want you to focus on. I should note that there is something special about hearing a track in a foreign language and having the vocals not only resonate with you, but be the standout piece which bears the most, if not all, emotional gravity. I didn't know a fucking thing this woman said to me, but I know that it was wildly important to her and probably some group of people. And for that reason, I found it moving, even though I had no idea what she was saying or even talking about. So I think that it goes without saying that I look forward to and hope you have the translation of these vocals so I can truly understand the importance of the narrative and what exactly the topic is. All that said, Despite its brevity and simplicity in arrangement and instrumental composition, the track had emotional stir to it, and I found that both beautiful and intriguing. So, tell me a bit more about this one, John. And what the hell is the? Why would they name the song "Theme from Harry's Game"? Like, who's Harry? What's his game? Why does it require a theme?
It's that, Andy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay. I will get into all that in a second. Just to say, a few weeks back, there news that the singer that you heard, Moira, died.
Oh no.
And there were some comments in the, I don't know, I've got it in my notes at the bottom, I'll say the date. But there were some comments about it on one of our episodes of the day that it happened.
Okay.
So I said I'd bring some Clannad to the channel just for that reason to commemorate. But it is something as well. It struck me that as soon as that conversation started, and I can't remember which of our viewers dropped it, so apologies, but you all know who you are. Um, they've been around for so long, and people of a certain age, my age probably,
Hmm.
they are familiar for a couple of reasons, and you forget through familiarity just how outstanding their sound is and how individual it is. This wonderful sound. This track and several others. And so then I thought, well, I'd see what Andy makes of this because this will be something he probably hasn't heard before and it'll
Yeah.
be impactful. So I'm glad, you liked it. I'll get into it. There's a bit to go through.
Yeah, and just
But
just to be clear, I don't want to make this sound like I'm busting down the doors to go because this isn't necessarily my genre of music, right? But I think you would have to be ear blind or deaf, I think they call it, to not to not really appreciate the talent on display here. And because it has this added bit of like emotion to it, I think that you can connect to it no matter what your cup of tea is or your typical listen is. I mean, I would gladly listen to this again, even if it isn't something that I would normally clamor for.
yeah, and there's proof of that this particular song, the impact later on, which I'll go to.
Okay.
So they were an Irish band formed in 1970 in Gweedore, County Donegal. So they are known for Irish traditional folk rock, Celtic, New Age, and pop. So Clannad was formed by siblings. Right, I will say this now, and I will say this only once. There's going to be a whole lot of murdering of pronunciation of the Gaelic tongue here, by myself mostly. I'll apologise once now. I'm really sorry for all of this, but it'll be my best guesstimation. Even the lyrics and the phonetic pronunciation, when you spell it out, is still going to be an absolute car crash. So, peace out, Ireland. Anyway, so Clannad was formed by siblings Kieran, Moira, and Paul Brennan, with their twin uncles Noel and Podrick Duggan. Now, even though they were uncles, the gaps in years was only like 3 or 4 years. It wasn't like
Yeah.
they were generational. So they grew up in Dore, a remote parish in Gweedore, County Donegal, in northwestern Ireland. It is a Gaeltacht region where the Irish is actually the main spoken language. So in 68, the Brennan and Duggan fathers bought and restored a dilapidated old tavern in nearby Minaleg and ran it as a music bar called Leo's Tavern. Their children performed there together and developed their own act with Kieran and Paul Brennan on bass, vocals, and bongos, Podrick and Noel Duggan on guitars, and Elder Brennan's sister Moira on harp and vocals. So initially they were known as Clan as Dobhar, which means family from Dor, and then they shortened that to Clannad in 73. So they established themselves as a acoustic folk group. They collected material, particularly from old singers and old storytellers around Donegal, and about this repertoire of like traditional Irish songs. Um, and then they kind of updated the arrangement to more contemporary for a full band. Um, this approach apparently attracted criticism at first because the Irish language was associated with poverty. But as Paul Brennan recalled, once they said that, we just had to do it even more.
Yeah, right.
I don't,
Exactly.
I mean, that's a weird thing, obviously, from the 70s. So in 73, they came in first place in the Letterkenny Folk Festival, were offered a deal with Philips Records, which they negotiated themselves. They recorded their debut album in Dublin during both Irish and English songs. Released in 73, self-titled Clannad was met with initial resistance from the label because of the use of the Irish language. And the group found themselves more popular outside Ireland, particularly in Germany. Don't know why,
Oh,
but there you go. In 74, they followed up with Clannad 2, which is also, again, a mixture of English and Irish. And it was their first use of a synthesizer, um, and was sort of heavier on the folk rock than several later releases. Their next album, De Luman, which means seaweed, was released in 76. So in 19, there's a lot to get through here, so I'm going to skip. In 1980, Clannad became a six-piece band when the younger Brennan's sister, Ethne, which we will know as Enya, joined as an additional singer. Have you heard of Enya?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And she was an additional singer and keyboard player to expand the group's sound and extra vocals and etc. By the time they recorded their next album, Fuaim, which means sound, Enya had become a full-time member. And again, this album developed their sound with more electronic instruments and keyboards. Enya was lead vocals on a couple of tracks as well. But during and after a tour, she was feeling increasingly restricted with her band setting, so she departed to pursue what would prove to be a hugely successful international solo career as Enya.
Yeah.
So back to Five Piece in '82, they signed to RCA Records and accepted an invitation to record the title music to a television series called Harry's Game.
Okay. Okay.
Hence the theme from Harry's Game, a three-part television drama depicting the troubles in Northern Ireland.
Oh.
This is a very tricky thing to do in 1982 because
Mm.
they weren't over.
Oh no.
And it was
Yeah.
based on a novel by Gerald Seymour. And Seymour himself, the author, had suggested that the band record music for the show. So for this sort of time, this music, etc., and what was going on, Kieran Brennan, bass, guitar, keyboards, vocals. Moira Brennan, vocals, harp. Paul Brennan, flute, guitar, percussion, vocals. Noel Duggan, guitar, vocals, and Podrick Duggan, guitar, vocals. And there are some additional musicians. Ed Dean, electric guitar. James Delaney, synths, keyboards. Alan Dunn, accordion. Charlie Morgan, drums. Podrick O'Donnell, vocals. And Frank Ricotti. Where's he come from? Percussion. It's so funny at the end of so Kieran, Paul, and Moira wrote the theme for Harry's Game in just a few hours. It was recorded in 2 days and became an atmospheric masterpiece featuring a Prophet 5 synthesizer and over 100 tracked vocals. So that's where you get that depth, which is
Yes.
amazing.
That explains so much.
And it was a departure from their usual acoustic folk sound. It was released as a single in October '82, and it became their band's commercial breakthrough and caught international attention. It peaked at number 2 in Ireland, number 5 in the UK, and reached the top 20 in the Netherlands and Sweden. It remains the only UK single to be sung entirely in Irish. Clannad's national exposure increased further when they performed the song on Top of the Pops. And then from 1983 to 1987, Irish rock band U2 used the song at the end of their conference as a concert sales. They usually end with the song 40 and they one by one go off. And then that music comes on to indicate everyone can bugger off and go home.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if
And
you were saying they covered this, but it sounds like it was their good night
it's
and
like
thank you
yeah,
soundtrack.
and then the lights come on and everyone goes home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that the TV series Harry's Game is often quoted, and fondly remembered. But actually, I watched it a few years ago. It's not really any big shakes. It is purely the theme tune that people really
Yeah.
remember, and that's elevated it in people's memories and minds. Just how popular and how powerful that song is. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not classic by any means.
Hmm.
So the lyrics are so mostly in Irish. I have the phonetics and I have also the translation and some notes as well. So it starts off because she's singing it as well, quite ethereal. It's really even hard to recognize
Yeah.
the Gaelic when it's written in front of you. Im ohoyi share is sheer, undornig un riun unyar lag is un Translation is east and west. Well, again, I said I'd only say sorry once, but I'll say sorry once more for my pronunciation. So east and west will go away, as has happened before, the moon, and the sun. So this is notes from Moya. Um, she says, my two brothers got together with me, and Kieran had an old book of Proverbs, which belongs to my grandfather. And in this was an Irish proverb saying what I just said, with the last line underneath it, everything that is and was will cease to be. He elaborated on it with the moon and the stars, the east and the west, the young man and his fame. It was a kind of lament. And then it goes into this fol lol la dol, fol the day. Fol la dol, fol la day. And she says the fol lol part was actually just mouth music. If you think of a fiddle playing fol de fiddle, fol de diddle, tiddly dudley do, well, we just slowed it down, and because of the sentiment of what we're singing, we sang it very slowly just to make those noises. So it's not
Mm.
even words, real proper words. Um, Imhoi un yalag is un goyen un dina ogist un kal no yi un. Translation is the moon and the sun will go away, the young people, and later their fame. And then fol lol dol, fol the day, fol the dol, fol the day. And again, repeated. And then the last bit, imohoi un dornig unroi of undina og is un kyle no year, which is a going away that has happened before, the young man and later his fame. Follow the doll, follow the day, follow the doll, follow the day. Yeah, I remember hearing this for the first time, and it's just amazingly haunting. And
Hmm.
now that I learned from doing the research that they've layered 100 tracks, it kind of makes sense because it does sound
Yes.
amazing. It's the vocal equivalent of Mist. It really is, just
Yeah.
hanging there in the morning, and really atmospheric. Um, so Harris Game was done and released before the album. Sorry, this is notes from Moira, a little small interview which she did. Harry's Game was done and released before The Magical Ring, which is the album that could be there. We got a contract for RCA, which developed the album. We were approached and asked if we'd be doing the sort of thing, fictional drama, which would be on 3 nights on TV. If you can imagine, there's only 4 stations in Britain at the time, so there's more chance of people tuning in to see something that is
Yeah.
topical. We saw the show, and of course, before saying yes to it, it was a fictional story about Northern Ireland, and what it shows is no one wins in the end. So it's really in keeping with us because we're not a very political band. When they approached us, we wanted to use a track from the album Firm, which was a Scottish Gaelic song. We thought that'd be inappropriate to use for something concerning Ireland, so we said we'd write something new for it. We wrote it in a couple of hours and thought, great, it's a nice tune and everything, but we didn't realize the sound we created had developed over the 6 albums before with all the experimentations we did with words and voices and harmonies. So when someone approached us and said, where did you get that song? We had to stand back and say, what song? We were completely taken back by the response. We were in Germany on tour when Harry's Game was on TV, and we came back to do the main Top of the Pops kind of show. People were saying to us, what's it like to write a hit song? And we'd say, oh, come on, be serious. If you're we're trying to write a hit song, would you have written it in Gaelic? Entering the British charts at number 5 with a Gaelic song was really something. Oh, and it was brilliant. It was obviously a big turning point in our lives with getting a major record deal with RCA and having more time in the studio and writing our songs because Magical Ring was then half traditional music and material and half our own. So that's an interview she gave in '93.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal, I think, for anyone who was singing in Gaelic as well to suddenly see one of their songs, number 5 in the UK charts is amazing.
It's amazing that it resonated with other countries in Europe, many of
Yeah.
whom don't speak or don't have a familiarity with that language. Like they were saying, like for that to be a hit, there's some irony there, right? Because of the language.
Yeah. And also, this is before the prevalence of Irish pubs bloody everywhere.
Yeah.
So, who knew even that culture. So, they released their 7th album, Magical Ring, in March '83. Um, the album peaked at number 26 in the UK and became the group's first album to be certified gold. A month after Magical Ring was released, the band was commissioned to score the 26-episode television drama series Robin of Sherwood, which was broadcast on ITV from '84 to '86. They created music for a range of characters and events related to the legend of Robin Hood, and for the first time, they recorded entirely in English. Um, In 84, May 84, a soundtrack album from the series was released called Legend, and it reached number 15 in the UK. The theme tune of the series was released as a single entitled Robin brackets The Hooded Man, and it went to 19 in Ireland, number 42 in the UK. And Clannad won a BAFTA for Best Original Television Music, the first Irish band to win it in 85.
Wow.
That's another really well, fondly remembered sort of bit of music to that. That TV series was hugely popular, really, really popular, and the music from it as well. In 85, Clannad released their next album, McCullough, which means echo. It's that one there.
Mm.
Which most casual people who have familiarity with Clannad will have that album, I think, more than any other. It was recorded in Switzerland, England, and Ireland. It yielded a hit single, In a Lifetime, which is a duet with U2 singer Bono.
Ooh, I've heard of
And
that.
it began with Moira teaching some Irish to Bono during the introduction. And there it is, the 7-inch that I bought when it came out. And there's the two of them there.
Hmm.
Um, I listened to it again now. I haven't heard it in ages. And it sounds more dated than Harry's Game. And it was between the two which one I was going to give you. Because it's quite an interesting one. But this is magical. So, I think I
Yeah.
chose the right one. Anyway, in 85, Paul Brennan left Clannad to work with Peter Gabriel as producer for the WOMAD Arts Festival and as an acoustic specialist. The band continued as a four-piece. They went on and released stuff between 99 and 2007. They were largely inactive, though, when individual members did pursue their own projects. Moira started publicly using the spelling Moya Brennan in 2002, despite having released a solo album called Moira with the sort of Irish spelling. In 2011, Paul Brennan returned to the group as a full-time member for the first time since 1990. In 2013, Clannad released Nadur, which means nature, on the Arc music label, their first studio album since 1998. And it was their band's final album before the death of Podrick Duggan in 2016. In the same year, Moya and Brennan announced that she'd been diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, a
Oh,
progressive lung disease, which required her to rephrase her vocals to some songs. So in April 2020, In a Lifetime was released, and it was a greatest hits anthology to commemorate the band's 50th anniversary. Um, the album coincided with a tour, which they obviously did, their final tour as a group, which is take place in UK and North America, but tours was postponed obviously because of COVID-19.
mhm.
And it resumed again in 2021. Noel Duggan died in October 2022, age 73. And then this year, in April 2026, Moya Brennan died, age 73 as well, which is what prompted me to include the track on the channel. So just to sum up, in total, Clannad released 13 studio albums, 4 live albums, and 3 soundtracks. And the Brennans are Ireland's most successful music family. As of 2005, so we think that another 20 years has passed, 21 years has passed, this probably needs updating. But the combined record sales of Clannad and Enya exceeded 70 million records worldwide.
Yeah, that'll
Uh,
do it.
and then you've got the solo albums of Moira Brennan, Paul Brennan, Britain have also had commercial and critical success. So they've had a massive impact and spread the sort of the Celtic sound as well across the waves across the world.
That's great.
So yeah,
Well,
really.
I have to say, it's just harkening back to what you to before her death, but as it relates to her diagnosis, there's some sad irony there. I mean, your lungs, when you have a voice like this that can be
Yeah,
so airy and really bolstered by your the power of your lungs to be the thing that hamstrings you in the latter part. I mean, kudos to them for even still doing music and intending to tour and all of that stuff, because I can only imagine how daunting at times that could have been for her to perform.
yeah, yeah. It's a life's cruel irony. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I think it's worth having them on the channel as well. And it's obviously it prompted me from the sad news, but it's it's a real special sound. I think
yeah,
it's sort of very haunting and unique. So it's worth giving it a check. But
absolutely.
I shall wrap things up. So thanks for listening, Sandy.
Thank you.
Folks out there, please do hit the like button if you like this and drop some comments. We'd love to hear what you think about this track. Perhaps people remember Harry's Game more fondly than I do the actual TV series. I'm sure there are plenty of people who really loved Robin Sherwood. Robin, the hooded one. Yeah, really, that was a big, being early teenagers when that came out. But
Yeah.
yeah, really good stuff, and some great actors in that as well. Michael Praed, original. He then went away after two series, and Sean Connery's son, Jason Connery, came in as Robin Hood, which
Oh.
is a bit problematic because he had blonde hair and the original actor had dark hair.
Oh.
So it was a completely different person, and it didn't quite work. But yeah, really, really good cast, particularly that first series or two. Awesome stuff. So yeah, please drop some comments. I'd love to hear from you and what you think. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We'd love to have you on board. We appreciate everybody who does support the channel. So hop on board in your green tights and sing along. And that being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.